game number 3 between Gamers Origin and Eclypsia. Eclypsia able to somehow manage a way to come back into game number 2 to force this third game. So now we are going to find out who will be joining LDLC in the grand finals.
Yes, we will. So it's going to be very interesting to see what Eclypsia will do now against Gamers Origin. This time, they might have a way to handle the early game. Last time, they got the early game composition, but they weren't that convincing, I'd say. I definitely wasn't convinced at all, and I'd like to see them play more decisive in this game.
Yeah, but we are getting into the pick and ban so far. We've seen pretty much the exact same bans from Gamers Origin, the Udyr, Nocturne, and Varus taken off the table, but on the flip side, Eclypsia having banned away the Jace, the Ahri, and the Syndra.
Yes, and now, with that being said, Lee Sin is still up for the taking. You don't want to give that over to your opponent. We have seen Blue Razor fall back onto that Lee Sin every time in this game as of now. It didn't wait. Oh, yeah. So, okay. So, not going for the Lee Sin first pick this time, getting tricked a little bit. So, Ryze coming in instead for Generi. That's going to be very interesting to see how that'll turn out. I'm a big fan of Ryze with the Realm Warp. You get quite a lot of playmaking potential, and then you can build on top of that. You can get that Lee Sin to make more plays. You can even get someone like Jhin to complement the Ryze as well.
Yeah, but we'll see if that Jhin is not taken away by Eclypsia, who, right as we're saying it, lock that in for Walks. That is definitely a smart choice by the side of Eclypsia in order to make sure that you don't give that over to Gamers Origin. You don't want them to have both a really good laner like the good late game, mid game champion like that Ryze, as well as a good laner and mid game person like the Jhin. But then Chap going back to that Kha'Zix.
Going back to that Kha'Zix, indeed getting once again a jungler that worked really well for him in the last game, and Jhin. So that's going to be the early game that they want again, and that could potentially be yet another early game composition. They have the Jhin now. Karma is still open for the taking. They can go that, but I really like what Gamers Origin are doing. You know what? I talked about Realm Warp. You can build on top of that, get that Lee Sin as I said you could, but also rumble into the top lane. Now you have quite a heavy AAP composition and quite a lot of 5v5 potential inside of Gamers Origin.
Yeah, the great you're gonna have that carpet laid down with that equalizer coming in from Shemex now on that Rumble, but on the side of Eclypsia, they need to find a way to really be able to punish that Rumble on the top lane. You need to make sure that he is down and out for the count, because if you don't, he's going to do so much work in these team fights. But we see that Melon wants to go for the Orianna, definitely a great playmaking champion in that mid lane going against the Ryze.
Yeah, and Orianna is just fairly safe against Ryze, won't bring too much playmaking potential, but won't be bad as well. And now with the clock ticking down for Eclypsia, they have to ban something away. Banning away the Ashe, we did see that come out in the first game of today, which Gamers Origin they won. And with Rumble and Ryze being locked in, you don't want to give them too much CC. That crowd control could be very good for Gamers Origin, so taking that away is very smart.
And I also like the ban of the Zyra by Gamers Origin, making sure that you don't give a really good lane phase to Eclypsia. Sure, the Karma is still left on the table, so I wonder if we'll see Gamers Origin ban that. But the last ban coming in from Eclypsia will be that Caitlyn. They want to make sure that Kitty is not on something that is very comfortable or very strong.
And now I'm really looking forward to see whether or not Gamers Origin they want to ban away Jax, because in the last game Jax ran out of control. Once we got to that 30-minute mark, he became a huge problem for Gamers Origin. They won't ban it away. They can still pick it up on the side of Eclypsia. And Rumble going up against Jax, that's going to be a very interesting matchup if Jax is the lock-in for Eclypsia.
And actually, we do see the Karma rounding out the last bans from Gamers Origin. They are targeting that bot lane, especially onto Caitlyn. They want to make it very hard for him, but we see that Jax being locked in again for Alderite.
And now Gamers Origin, they have to pick an AD carry here. What is really left for them to take? Ezreal is the obvious pick, going for that late game insurance, and they have to get a support as well. Lulu is a poor man's Karma, you can pick that up. Malzahar is still open for the taking as well if you want some more suppression to help you with that Realm Warp and the Rumble Equalizer, but Lulu coming in just to help Ezreal get through the laning phase safe and sound.
Well, I like the fact that they didn't go for the Malzahar. The Misfortune still available for Eclypsia to pick if they wanted to in that bot lane. So it's definitely more Gamers Origin being like, you'd much rather have the poor man's Karma, like you had mentioned about Lulu. And they are saving for their support for last pick. Actually, they're going to go for the Malzahar now.
Yes.
Since they don't have to worry about that counter in the bot lane.
Oh.
Oh, but no. Whoa. They want to swap it on us last second. Actually going for the Nami.
I'm not a big fan of that. I would rather have seen the Malzahar come out just because of Nami having the Tidecaller's Blessing. It doesn't work that well with Jhin. Obviously, you do get that CC, so if you can land it, then it'll be very good for Eclypsia. And now with Nami being locked in, these are the two teams that you will have to look at here in the loser bracket final. It is a Gamers Origin going up against Eclypsia in the best of 3, the full series, and they are about to either lose or win here, getting into the grand final to play against Team LDLC.
Yeah, we will see how it does kind of boil down in this, but looking at the team comps, we really have to dissect how this is going to play out, because it's a weird kind of comp coming in from Gamers Origin. They have this early game. They have the Lulu, who's going to do pretty well in the early game, but they also, mostly talking about Bloodraiser on that Lee Sin, definitely needs to make an early game presence, but the fact that they also have the late game presence in that Ezreal, in that Ryze, and even in that Rumble with no true frontline, it's going to be something very scary for them looking into this game.
I really like the team that Gamers Origin have built together. I really think that it has a very clear win condition. You have the early game in Rumble, and in Ryze, and even in Lee Sin, of course. So in that sense, you do get some playmaking potential in the early game, while you still have the late game damage from every lane coming in from Gamers Origin. It is all on the side of Eclypsia. They need to pull ahead in the early game, like in the last game, and I'm still in a position where I need to see them convincingly pull ahead in the early game, because they never really got that far ahead in the last game. They got like 1 or 2 kills and then didn't really do anything active for the remainder of the game.
Well, I'd say they did. Both sides kind of were active. It was just a back and forth for a lot of the game. We saw how close that was, and it only really ended because Gamers Origin were the ones making faulty mistakes towards the end of it.
What I'm trying to say is just that you can be way more active as an early game team, as a Jhin, as a Kha'Zix, even with your Syndra. You could have been way more active than you were, and that ended up just giving too much freedom over to Gamers Origin, and they were so close to winning that game.
Yeah, they're very close, and like I said, it was just a matter of mistake after mistake coming in from them, not necessarily seeing that either team was doing great. It was back and forth, and then finally it only broke open because Gamers Origin were just making too many mistakes, and Eclypsia was able to finally capitalize that. If we see Gamers Origin making those same kind of mistakes coming into this game, it could be their downfall.
Standard clears coming in from the 2 junglers, getting an early Gromp and a blue buff on the side of Blue Razor. And Chap obviously getting the standard clear as well, and able to move down to get the Scuttled Crab as well early on. So Eclypsia and Gamers Origin, they're not doing anything cheeky here in the early game.
No, not doing anything cheeky, but it's definitely important to kind of look at these lanes and see how everything is going there. We see the Corrupting Pot picked up by Alderite in that top lane. He definitely wants to try to skirmish with Shemek as much as possible.
Oh, Tenere, you're taking a lot of damage in the mid lane.
Yeah, we're seeing the standard kind of comp coming in where Oregon is really going to be able to bully around that Ryze, but we have to look at all the lanes and how they're kind of interacting with each other. We see that the Rumble is starting to be able to push out that Jax, but in the bot lane we actually see quite the advantage for Walks and
Ooh, Melon.
But now that is the exhaust for exhaust coming in. The flash from Melon. One more auto will kill him. The flash in from Tanera. That is going to be the 1v1 first blood going over for Tanera.
Once again, Gamers Origin, they get the first blood for themselves. Like in the last game, they were able to get it. They were able to play off of that. And with the first blood going over to Tenere, he's going to be able to start pushing in this lane and start to scale up already, getting that Tear of the Goddess. Oh, which job.
He gets himself that kill onto Tenera. Now Blue Razor, he wants to see if he can trade something back onto Chap. He does go for that dive under, takes one tower shot, but still getting the kill on that Kha'Zix.
This game's very chaotic, and they're fighting in the bottom side as well.
Now we see the exhaust coming out for exhaust, the heal being used by Wox. He still has his flash available, having to flash away now. Kitty wanting to see if he can get the kill onto Kaylin. Kaylin taking so much damage, flashing away, getting himself to tower. But man, this is definitely a back and forth game, similar to game 2.
Both of the teams want to get a clear advantage already from the get-go, and as of now it is a Gamers Origin pulling ahead with nearly 1,000 gold already here 4 minutes into the game. It's looking fairly good for them. They got a Tear of the Goddess onto their mid laner, they got a kill onto Blue Razor, and now they can start to scale up in the mid lane while also getting that extra mana to keep pushing in against the Melon, who has no summoner spells, by the way.
Yeah, gonna be really easy to make a repeat gank if you're a Blue Razor. You want to make sure you put down that Orianna, but Tenera, he's got to be careful because now he's the one being ganked. He doesn't have any summoners as well. Tenera taken so low, they did not go for the dive. I think that was smart because that could have been the Rune Prison to their death.
That could definitely have been a Rune Prison to their death, and Tenera didn't have any summoners as well, so it was a really smart decision for Chap to come in and try to make a return gank onto Tenera, trying to gain a little bit more momentum. But talking about momentum, straight up to the top lane.
Yeah, Chap, he wants to get this kill on to this Rumble. They want to make sure to try to get all the right ahead, but the good warding coming in from Shemek is going to keep him safe, keep him secure. So, gonna just see pretty much a little bit of a lull, as this has been a very high impact, high fighting game so far. Both teams definitely wanting to get that early spike that we mentioned in the champ select, but we are kind of seeing that still in the advantage for Gamers Origin, though the gold lead has shrunk to only around 500 gold.
Only shrunk to only 500 gold, but still Gamers Origin, just them being in the driver's seat means that they can slowly scale up as the team that they want to do so. Ryze having the Tear of the Goddess, Kitty having the Tear of the Goddess as well. They are getting plenty of time for themselves, and Blue Razor actually looking for a gank onto Melon.
Yeah, wanting to get that Orianna without any summoners. Here comes that ward jump, but does not connect the Sonic Wave, so gonna be pretty safe on that Orianna.
Pretty safe on that Orianna indeed. I really like the two junglers. They are trying to constantly go into the mid lane where there are no summoners, so they know where they can harvest these advantages, but they just haven't been able to do so quite yet.
No, but we do see that they are starting to get some items. They've gotten themselves their upgraded jungle items. We see the Skirmisher Saber picked up again for Chap, so he will be lacking in that vision department, while we saw Blue Razor getting himself that Tracker's Knife.
And getting the Tracker's Knife is essential for Lee Sin, obviously, to get the ward jumps. Oh, actually, okay, so there wasn't. I thought for a second that Tenera was level 6, so that we might see a realm warp down to the bottom side. But the two junglers, they are down at the bottom side, and they might clash here.
There is the jump on to Blue Razor. He's trying to get the ward jump as well, but look at the damage that Chap was able to do because of that isolation damage. And that allowed Wox and Kaylin to be able to walk up and do a good amount of damage to Targomas. So we're going to see how everything does boil down, as we are just seeing both junglers trying to make a statement, trying to say that they are going to be the one with that early game advantage. And Chap, who was getting a little bit of pressure from Blue Razor before, is now going to be able to throw it right back onto Blue Razor.
Gamers Origin, with them right now being fairly in the driver's seat, they are fairly in control. It's not like they are dominating, but they aren't behind as well. So that means that it's going actually really good for them. And with the dragon being a mountain drake, if they can keep this going, then they should be able to pick up the mountain drake for themselves as their first dragon. But obviously Eclypsia, they have the single target CC, they have the potential to start a dragon for themselves with all that control that they can get off of their champions.
Yeah, so we'll see how it does play, but the thing is that Chap will be able to solo that dragon really easily. So as long as he goes and they just keep up the vision, try to get some vision control, because we see right now that there's both sides lacking heavily in the vision, while Blue Razor was able to steal away that red, and we actually see Chap has no idea where Blue Razor is at the moment.
They might be lacking vision, both of the teams, but Gamers Origin, they do have a lot of defensive vision for themselves. Just take a look at your minimap. There are 1 ward down at the tri-bush in the bottom side, then you have 2 wards up in the mid-river as well. Now Melon and Chap, they're about to make a cheeky gank here at the bottom side.
Yeah, they use that blast cone to get over. They're being very sneaky. Melon is going to be nearby. He does have the shockwave available. Here comes the teleport being used by Shemek to at least disengage that thought of dive coming in from Eclypsia. But now Blue Razor, he's making his path towards that bot lane. Oh, and that the equalizer was flashed away by Walks, which kind of is unfortunate. Though we did see Melon getting cut off by Blue Razor and having to flash as well. We do see Eclypsia, even though they wanted to get that dive, they do get a teleport out of the Rumble.
That could have been a very dangerous dive for Gamers Origin. The setup was fine. You had Chap and you had Oriana down there. They had a lot of damage, but they just didn't have the minions necessary to make that play. They had nothing to help them dive under the tower. And then obviously they get the teleport off of Shemek. So that means that, again, going back to the dragon, if they are able to find someone out of position, then they could pull the trigger and get that dragon.
And look at this. We actually see Alderite fighting Tanera and doing a lot of damage, but we see in the jungle, Blue Razor was able to get the kill on the Chap with that exhaust being used by Kaylin to try to keep Blue Razor down, but Blue Razor is doing so much damage. He has himself that Caulfield's Warhammer as well as having that Chalker's Knife, gonna bring a lot to the table, and once he does back, we'll be able to afford that Warrior's Enchantment.
And I'm pretty sure that with all the games that we've watched of Blue Razor, that we can conclude that he is a monster in the early game. If he gets ahead, if he gets 1 kill or a CS lead, he will be so punishing. And now with him having 2 kills and a CS lead of around 10 CS, you have to be really afraid on the side of Eclypsia, because Blue Razor is coming for the victory.
Yeah, he really is, and that's the thing I was talking about. I would have liked to have seen a ban towards this Lee Sin, because that's definitely when he has the biggest strength of any champion in his pool. Very unfortunate that we did not see Eclypsia banning that away from Gamers Origin, but now we actually might see Tanera going for a gank in the bot lane.
Realm Warp coming in.
Yeah, and Wonk did cancel his back. Kaylin is very low. He uses that tidal wave, gets the heal, as well as trying to keep Wok safe. There isn't going to be anyone behind for Gamers Origin to go for a further dive, but they do get a lot of summoners out of the side of Eclypsia.
Eclypsia, they are losing advantages left, right, and center. Oh, Blue Razor!
Oh, but Chap.
Oh, nice flash.
So much damage. That was a great flash from Blue Razor to be able to follow this up.
Oh, Chap.
Good done. Coming in. Happy feet, but here comes the carpet. Gonna get the kill. Shemek picking up a nice kill on to Chap.
Chap so close to getting away from Gamers Origin, but will die to the equalizer in the end. Really well played by Blue Razor. He is unrelenting. He's really trying to shut down Chap, and Chap, having died 3 times already in this game, he's having such a hard time in this game. We talked about this before, how Kha'Zix is a snowbally pick, and with him only having 47 CS and 1 kill, and having died 3 times, there's literally no momentum going for him at all, and his team are suffering off of that.
I don't know if they're suffering too much, to be honest, though. We actually have to look at the CS and see that Melon's doing a great job for himself. He has quite a lead accrued over Tanera right now, and we even see that Alderite, who's been punished pretty heavily by this Rumble being poked a lot, is still keeping consistent with his opponent, which normally the Rumble should be very far ahead by this point.
But what I'm trying to say is just that Eclypsia, they could push their advantages, if they had any, just way further. They have the team to do so. The single target lockdown, the single target damage, they do have that. But with Chap not being there, not being able to engage with the help of Kha'Zix, then you just don't get that fundament. You don't get that tool to try and make plays. And now here comes the Realm Warp once again.
Gonna have the Realm Warp, but that was gonna be an early tidal wave, not
teleport coming in.
But we do have the teleport coming in from Alderite. He wants to come in, see if he can go for this gank. Tanera has to flash away from Chap. They have the exhaust being used onto Alderite. There's the wild growth to try to keep Tanera alive. Bubble will connect. They're gonna get the kill onto the Rise, but here comes Blue Razor. They instantly killed Chap. They want to get more.
Blue Razor coming in huge.
One more auto. Kitty picks that one up. Now we see Walks with the teleport behind.
Shemek!
Going to be taken down by Shemek as there is still the ball from Melon. Here comes the red carpet. That is the shockwave only connecting on the one. Melon will fall. Kitty picking up the kill.
Everyone from Eclypsia got caught between a Rumble and the rest of his team, and that's going to be Eclypsia losing that fight. Really well played by Gamers Origin. They just kept everybody from Eclypsia down there for so long. Yes, Tonera died, but you allowed Shemek to come in from behind. Blue Razor came in, and he's the strong point as well on the side of Gamers Origin, and this looks to be a repetition of the first game in this best of 3 series. So take a look at this replay. Instantly you have the Realm Warp. Tonera is able to come in and chunk out a Vax. Vax is not really a part of this team fight at all. Yes, he has the Currents Call, but instantly there are just no damage with him being gone. Tonera gets killed because of everybody using their summoners and ultimates on him, but then teleport coming in from behind. They're simply getting clamped upon. They are getting killed Eclypsia because they weren't really able to kill the strong members on the side of Gamers Origin, and Melon in the end weren't even able to set up his shockwave in the right way. So Eclypsia, they are really losing a lot of time and resources in this game, which are going over to Gamers Origin, and it's slowly looking like a repetition of the first game, a stomp, so to say. Not as stompish as the first game, but nonetheless a game where Gamers Origin are in complete control.
Yeah, they really are in the driver's seat. They're trying to do what they can on the back of Blue Razor, who's trying to carry them to that rematch that they really desperately want to have against LDLC and prove that they deserve that trophy. But it still isn't Eclypsia being down and out. They still do have opportunities, especially with Alderite being on that Jack, so long as he continues to scale up. But we will see this Mountain Drake being sneakily taken by Blue Razor.
That's going to be so nice. Getting a Mountain Drake onto your team, the team with the late game power, getting a 10% true damage to towers as well is very good for them, because that means that now they can move away. As you see, Kitty and Targamas from the bottom side move into the mid lane, start to get those sieges, get the towers, get the gold flowing into your pocket.
Yeah, they really do, but we do see that wow, that was a great shockwave coming in, killing Blue Razor instantly. They were sitting on a ward the whole time, not even a ward, they just knew that they were there. And now we have that red curtain coming in from the Equalizer, and Chap just standing on it the whole time. Kitty will be taken down, getting the kill for Melon. Here comes the Rumble trying to get them out, but that was a great stun coming in from Alderite. Now Tonera, he's being focused. Will they be able to get the kill? That will be Kaylin picking up the kill, and that will be 3-for-1 traded.
This is what happens, Gamers Origin, when you go into an extended skirmish. Eclypsia, they have so much single target damage. Tonera and Kitty, they died very early on. So did Blueser. And yes, you had the Equalizer, but it didn't do too much. You need to group up as a 5-man unit, make these team fights where you have a clear front line and a back line, or else Eclypsia with their single target damage will decimate you, like in that team fight or skirmish, whatever you want to call it.
Well, the thing for Gamers Origin right now is, who is the front line? Who would be that person you'd say designate as the front line? But Melon is going to be jumped on by Shemek, going down instantly. That is going to be the Dragon's Rage on a Chap who flashes over the wall to try to keep himself safe. But the fact that the Orion of the wave clear is gone for the side of Eclypsia just swings that advantage right back over to Gamers Origin.
And the front line of Gamers Origin as of now is Blueser and Shemek. They might not be tanky, but they have so much damage that Eclypsia, they have to flee at the sight of them. Nonetheless, Eclypsia, if they can find them alone, then they have the position to kill them, then they have the tools to do so. But with towers falling left, right and center for Eclypsia, Gamers Origin, they are looking like they are in the best possible position in this game 3 in this best of 3 series.
The problem is they're not up that much gold. It is about 2,000 gold in their lead, almost 3,000, getting close to there. But we saw that even if they don't have a massive lead, they do struggle to close these games out. As in the game 2, they were only up about 2,000, 3,000 gold at the 20-minute mark and weren't able to close it out. And Eclypsia were able to claw their way back in and win the game.
Off of some mistakes that Gamers Origin made, of course. Gamers Origin, they had a lot of control in game 2 as well, but they just weren't able to close it out effectively, as you said, and we do have to see that coming in from Gamers Origin in this game. Nonetheless, they don't have a virus this time. They have an AD carry that has a bit more auto-attack potential if you go into a full-blown teamfight with Ezreal having his Mirror Mana and his Trinity Force, of course. Ezreal can be quite a big nuisance in that sense, whereas someone like Varus, he's a full-blown caster ADC, won't really be able to deal any auto-attack damage. Well, at least auto-attack, like in terms of crits and stuff like that.
Yeah, but the thing is, Kitty doesn't really provide that siege potential that you might want to have from Gamers Origin, who definitely do struggle when it comes to the sieges, where it comes to closing out these games. So they got to be really careful when it comes to just finding a way to get these towers, finding a way to push the minions out.
Realm Warp.
And now we see Realm Warp. They want to get this fight, as they're unfortunate because Blue Razor wanted to catch that Realm Warp, did not get there in time, so it was completed, and they weren't able to keep on Alderite.
They might not have that siege potential with the Varus and with the Victor that they had in the last game, but they have the brute force. They can dive under towers, basically. They have the Equalizer, they have the two-shot barriers, even the Realm Warp. They can force their way into the base of Eclypsia, but all it really takes is one mistake, and then Eclypsia, they can find one target out of position. They can find a good shockwave like this.
Like that. Well, it is only onto the Lulu, so not going to pick that up. But that will be the wild growth being used at the curtain call. Is trying to find out where this Lulu is, but really good heavy feet coming in from Tarmagas, who's able to stay alive and not die. That actually is a lot used by the side of Eclypsia and a lot of their utility. They don't have the shockwave, they don't have the curtain call, so this should be an easy siege coming in now from Gamers Origin.
Exactly, a lot of utility and a lot of tools being used on the side of Eclypsia to get that kill onto Tagamas. That means that now Gamers Origin, they have a small window of time where they can actually push into the mid lane, because there being no wave clear on the side of Eclypsia with Melon being out on the side.
Yeah,
Equalizer,
well,
they're brute forcing, man.
They're trying to go for this really hard, but that is going to be the tidal wave being used, trying to get Shemex and Blue Razor, who take a little bit of damage. And that was a lot of damage treated onto Wonks and Kaylin, but great disengage coming in from Eclypsia.
Oh, that two-shot barrage could have been so dangerous. But yeah, nice disengage coming in from Eclypsia. Again, they didn't have a shockwave. They didn't have the curtains call. Oh, shockwave.
Now they do. Now that it's come back off cooldown, but Melon getting himself a little too far out. Does get a little bit of
coming in from behind.
Yeah, Shemek doesn't have the equalizer though. Gotta be careful. The isolation damage coming in from Chap. Gonna do a lot of work as the overheat will come in. And he does get out of there, but has to use his flash. So that is a flashless rumble.
A flashless rumble indeed. Dragon respawning in 15 seconds. I'm not quite sure which dragon it is going to be. Nonetheless, as of now, Eclypsia, they are in a position to take it, because everybody from the side of Gamers Origin having to back off. Take a look, it's the Ocean Drake, so it could have been better for Eclypsia. Nonetheless, they do want every advantage that they can get.
Yeah, and this will at least help a little bit with some siege potential, some ability to just go for early game split pushing, especially on the back. Alderite, making it so that he can heal up so long as no one's nearby. And sure, it's not much healing, not much regen, but it's enough to at least get him something. But now Kaylin's got to be careful. Really good bubble to predict where Tonera is going to be spawning out of that Realm Warp.
Gamers Origin, you have a lot of vision around the Baron Nashor. I do like you having that. I would rather see you perhaps move it a little bit further up into the jungle, where, like you have in the bottom side of the jungle of Eclypsia, because the more offensive lines you can get, the further you can push those lines ahead. It'll end up being a defensive line for you, which you really need at this point, because you need to force your way into this game. You need to try and brute force like this.
Equalizer, though, they're gonna go for this dive again. They're doing the same thing. Curtain call is up for Walks, but that tower does finally fall. Here comes Blue Razor with the Dragon's Kick, kicking Walks out from under the tower. He will fall even with a tidal wave hitting onto so many members. It was too late for it to save the gen.
Again, a brute force coming in from Gamers Origin, starting off with that equalizer and the two-shot barrage from Kitty, and then the kick ending it all on the side of Blue Racer, getting the kill onto Vax. A lot of vision right now is in the mid lane for Gamers Origin. They want to keep pushing, but they aren't really in a position to do so, and there's nothing else that they can get off of that kill. So you get the kill, yes, you get that extra goal, but you aren't really able to push your advantages further of that because Baron is still a little too early to take, and there's no dragon left to take, and, well, inner turrets aren't that easy to take against an Orianna.
But the fact that they do get this tier 1 in the mid lane down, you kind of question the warding coming in from Gamers Origin, but with this tower down, it makes it a lot easier for them to try to roam into those jungles and get that vision that they desperately need.
Yes, it gives them more freedom to try and create these vision lines, which I have been asking for. They can move it up now. Just take a look at how they're doing it. On your minimap, they are moving it further up into the jungle. They actually started the Baron. Okay, this is really risky decision.
Well,
they can't see it.
Yeah, it's smart because they have the control. They didn't clear out that vision ward so that they have no idea on the side of Eclypsia. They don't think this is going to happen because so many members are spotted across the map, but they can do it with the machine gun that is Rise on Tenera, and Blue Razor being ahead enough. He's gone for more of that offensive Lee Sin build. We saw him go for the defensive one when he's behind, but when he's ahead, Hex Shrinker, Warrior's Enchantment, gonna have that damage that he needs in order to take that.
Alex Magical Voice Wilden. They just got a very risky Baron, and that is going to put them very far ahead in this game. Getting that Baron buff, now they can fix their problems. They weren't really in a position to push because Melon being fairly ahead in this game, he had a lot of wave clear, but now going up against the Baron up minions, it's going to be hard. Oh, Tagama's jumping caught again.
Shockwave, a little too late to use that exhaust, but we will have the curtain call, and Alderite's just doing what he can in the side lanes, splitting up. Now we see Blue Razor getting engaged, taking a lot of damage, having to have his Hex Shrinker popped, so we'll have that off cooldown, but he survives. So does Targamas, and we have Tenera in the top lane being able to push. So this is a lot of objectives still in control for Gamers Origin.
And they do have the Baron up minions. They can do this without any trouble at all. Just because you have these strong minions, Eclypsia, 25 minutes into the game, can't deal with it. Blue Race is looking for a kick of some kind.
He's looking for a flank. I thought he was gonna go for the dive onto Melon with less than half health. I'm like, that better not be happening. That is way too risky. But you never know what Blue Razor might try to pull off.
It could have been very interesting if Blue Racer could have gotten that kick onto Melon or onto Chab. Tenera having so much damage could have killed them fairly easily, but as of now, Baron buff, still 1 minute and 45 seconds left to go. That is plenty of time if they want to try and get an inner turret. Every lane is getting pushed. Look at the bottom lane. Shemek is having a free time down there. In the mid lane, Kitty is just keeping on pushing. And in the top lane, Tenera is having the time of his life. Gamers Origin, they are dividing their forces, and it is working really well for them. They might not have gotten a tower yet, but they are getting down a lot of damage onto the towers.
It's divide and conquer. They're getting not just the damage onto these towers, but the vision as well, and making it very hard for Eclypsia to be able to react to them, while they're able to do things like Tenera is able to do to Alderite in that top lane and just do so much work, force him away and force him back, and now probably going to lose that tier 2.
And a small thing that we didn't mention off of them getting this Baron buff is just the fact that they are taking away a lot of this time that Alderite needs. He's getting a lot of farm, he's getting his 24s and his... oh wait, actually they're fighting again.
Yeah, they're fighting again. Here comes that great shockwave hitting onto Shemex.
Nice equalizer.
The red carpet landing as we do see the redemption being used by Eclypsia, trying to keep them safe, keep them healed up. But Kitty's on the sideline just trying to poke what he can. Kaelin getting kicked back. Blue Razor wants to just disengage because Tenera in the top lane able to get himself that inhibitor tower for his team.
They might not be done yet as Chap is taking a lot of damage. Nonetheless, they got that inhibitor tower, as you said, for the team. Tenera is pushing all the time, and now he has to back off as 3 of his teammates went back to base to buy up. As I was saying before they started that fight, it's a minor objective which got completed for Gamers this Origin off of them getting that Baron buff, is the fact that they took away a lot of the time that Alderite needed to scale up, because Alderite as the Jax is actually pretty far ahead.
Oh, wait a minute. Melon taking so much damage from Kitty. Kitty doing work. He does have himself that Bilgewater Cutlass. Chap does not get the jump over, but that is going to be the flash.
Oh, Chap is dead.
Blue Razor. They get the kill. All the right, he's in for a world of hurt. Tries to hop away, but Targamas is going to pick up that kill. We see in the mid lane that Tanera does lose his life over to Melon, but Melon taken so low. He's forced out of that one. And even though they were able to trade that rise for something, it was still 2 members dying for the side of Eclypsia.
We are entering the domain of Gamers Origin. We're entering the point where they will be so strong, where all of their late game damage is present. Kitty putting down a lot of damage.
He's going really deep. He does get that Mystic Shot to pick up the kill. Here comes the Curtain Call as well as the exhaust onto that Lulu. That's a lot used, but Blue Razor gets himself the kill onto Walks. Melon is all alone under this inhibitor. He does have a little bit of poke giving back, but he's gonna fall. This is Shemek getting the kill. That is an ace, but Chap just spawning out, but it's not going to be enough to save this inhibitor.
As I was saying, the domain of Gamers Origin has been entered. Eclypsia, they don't have any damage to deal with Gamers Origin at this point. If Gamers Origin, they go into a 5v5. Oh, Alderate, you're not done yet. You want to fight.
He wants to go in. They're going for Kitty. He has a lot of damage. He gets the kill. Blue Razor is going to be the next target. That's a double kill picked up for Alderate. He wants to get the kill on the Shemek. Chap taken solo. He does drop, but that's a triple kill picked up for the Jax.
A triple kill coming in from Alderate, having the Titanic, Hydra, and the Trinity Force. He is the shining hope for Eclypsia right now, having all that split push potential. He's the one that packs a lot of damage, but Gamers Origin, they have a Mountain Drake and they have an Infernal Drake as well now. They are really pulling themselves really far ahead, and with all this late game damage, which we have been talking about time and time again in this game, is really making it work for Gamers Origin. It's really putting Eclypsia behind as well, because Eclypsia, they don't have this 5v5 team fight composition. They can't really go into 5v5s. They will lose. They have single target damage.
Well, Eclypsia, they do have good AoE damage, such as that shockwave, but when Melon only uses it onto one person, it's very much wasted, and we see him drop so quickly as Targamas showed himself top lane. And that is very unfortunate, but here comes the Curtain Call as well as a redemption with that Wild Growth, but the Tidal Wave going to connect onto Tanera. He takes a lot of focus, helping to get that kill on him. Now the Lulu is going to be the next focus, but Kitty, Blue Razor, they've shown up to the party. They want to save that Lulu. Chap taking so much damage, so does Kaelin. He will fall, and that is Shemek in the back line getting Chap.
Overextension has been the name of the game for Eclypsia the last 10 minutes. Whenever they had an advantage, they overextended, and then they got punished. Gamers Origin, they are getting caught on the side of Tanera, yes, but the rest of the members are there, and they have plenty of damage to work with. You have the Rumble, everybody packs damage on the side of Gamers Origin, and Eclypsia, yes, you might have your AoE damage on the side of Melon, but he cannot solo carry.
What about Elderite? He's going to go in. He gets himself that kill with Melon on to Shemek. Now he's looking for more.
Holy hell, he's tanky.
But he's getting kited really well by Kitty. He tries going on to Targamas, and sure, he does have that Guardian's Angel available to him. The chase is going on. He's going to jump onto Targamas, try to see if he can get that stun. Not going to be able to connect that. Loses his Guardian's Angel. The kite mechanics coming out from Gamers Origin.
Alderate is very tanky at this point. As said, he is the glimmer of hope in this dark, dark time of Eclypsia. Yes, and now he got his GA popped. That is not present anymore, which is a huge problem for him, because that just meant that he was a big, big problem. But with that Guardian Angel away, he has to be more careful. Now Eclypsia, they have to tend to their base with all these two minions pushing in.
Yeah, the super minions are honestly what is going to make it so that even if Gamers Origin does make a misplay, they're still going to be fairly safe and able to do so much work as get this Baron with little to no contention coming out from Eclypsia, because they can't even leave the base or it will drop to these supers.
And the Baron Nashor must be the final nail in the coffin for Gamers Origin. Gamers Origin, all they really need to do is take down those inhibitors again, move down to the bottom side if you want to play it very, very slow and calm and collected, of course. Then you can just do it basically the introduction style of League of Legends. Take away every objective on the map, take away every tower, every inhibitor, and then slowly choke Eclypsia out of this game, because they can't get any resources and they can't get any time and room to play with. Now, current call coming in.
Yeah, curtain call coming in with Alderite. He's getting kicked back, but right on to Shemek. So they had to be careful, but they do have Tenera in the area.
Oh, nice
Here comes the
Eclypsia.
red carpet. The Redemption is going to be pumped, but that is the true shot barrage as well. But the Redemption keeping Eclypsia very healthy, but they're being chased right back into their base.
Right back into the base. The inhibitors are about to spawn, but Gamers Origin, they are on the brink of winning this game. They are on the brink of destroying the whole base of Eclypsia, and they're making a last stand here.
Yeah, they are. That's the tidal wave just to try to zone away.
Oh, shockwave!
Only landing on Tenera, but that's enough to get the kill onto that rise. They do trade Kalen for that rise, but that might be what you need to stay in the game just a little bit longer. But Supers are making their way to the Nexus Tower, while Kitty taking himself down an inhibitor.
Oh, Blue Razor.
Yeah, Blue Razor, he's gone out, but he will be a slippery little Lee Sin, getting himself out. But Alderite, he is not done, as he will fall. He no longer had that Guardian's Angel. Blue Razor went very far in as well, because he got the kill on Chap, but so he will lose his life, but that gets traded for Walks. Melon is going to be the last one.
That's an ace.
That's gonna be the game for Gamers Origin.
It looks so good for Eclypsia out of nowhere. They got a lot of kills, but then they just all ended up going on to Blue Race. No! Okay. It's very close for Gamers Origin to win this game, but nonetheless, they had a very bad team fight, so to say, there in the end. Tenera got caught. Kitty weren't together with his team, but in the end they just had more damage. It ended up being an overextension coming out from Eclypsia once again, and the crowd favorites will lose to Gamers Origin, who will get a rematch against Team LDLC.
Yeah, I am excited to see this rematch, because we saw the last time that LDLC and Gamers Origin met up. It was such a close series and boiled down to one Baron steal that came in from Kex, but this was a very weak showing, I still would say, from Gamers Origin. The game 1 was beautiful. They did such a great job in that, but then they fell apart in games 2 and 3. Game 3 barely coming back. Like, they finally figured out how to end the game. They finally figured out how to actually make a momentum going, but it looked very shaky in the mid game.
It certainly could have been better for Gamers Origin, but nonetheless, they win the game. It might have not have been pretty, but they now have 3 hours and 20 minutes, more or less, to fix their problems and get ready for the rematch against Team LDLC.
Yeah, I'm excited to see that, but for now, we will be taking a break. If you don't know who we are, I'm Alex, Magical Voice Wielden. I've been joined in by Jesper, Benvarmeren and Jesper, is there anything you'd like to say before we take our break?
I must say that it was a pleasure to cast this semi-final here at Lyon Esports, the 10th edition of it. So guys, I hope you all enjoyed it. If you want to hear more from myself or my co-cast, then do make sure to check out our Twitters or Facebooks if you do have that as well. And that's it from me and Magical Voice. So thank you all for watching, and we will see you later today.